right, well, welcome to another episode of Beyond ERP. I'm Louis Balla, joined by my co-host Gina Ostrowski. We're joined today with Daniel Young, CFO of Miami Beef, where he's been leading the company's financial strategy since November 22. With extensive experience in M&A and restructuring, Daniel has guided numerous businesses through complex transactions. Previously as CFO at Aquacor, he restructured the company and successfully led it through a sales process to InfoGrid. His background includes leadership roles at Deloitte, where he managed transaction services and restructuring engagements with PwC, specializing in cross-border M&A. Daniel, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Louis. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, welcome, Daniel. Really good to have you. It's great working with you the last few years. And let's jump in and let's tell the audience a little bit more about your background, maybe your experience that led you to your current role of CFO of Miami Beef.
Sure. So I've kind of been at Miami Beef my whole life. Family business, started there in high school, working the line, right? And then go to college, come back, work in the accounting side. And then in between kind of college to now, did a lot of work in the Big Four and Aquacor, where pick up a lot of financial reporting, financial operational skill sets, and then kind of take all that together to become a CFO of the tech company, take the skills you learn there, and then kind of brought it back to where I am now, Miami Beef, where we've been growing, acquiring, and it's been a lot of fun the last 2 years.
Yeah, it's definitely exciting, all your initiatives, et cetera. But Daniel, you've also played a key role in restructuring companies and leading financial transformations. Can you share maybe a specific digital transformation initiatives that you oversee at Miami Beef or at
so Miami Beef, when I came in, typical family style operation. You have a bookkeeper, everything's file cabinets. You're on a legacy on-prem system, and you come and say, okay, well, we're growing rapidly. We've got audit, financial reporting requirements. How can you transform this and grow without increasing labor like crazy and being able to close the books quickly? So what we did was with NetSuite, kind of say, okay, we need to take all of our data to do some things like AP automation, so that as AP comes in, we can just process it and pay it reasonably. So that's what led us to kind of NetSuite at first was, hey, how can I take everything that we're doing manually, get it to a process where I can scale the business, get reporting that we need, without having to increase our labor costs exponentially, as well as get the financials we need for our sponsors.
And that's impacted your financial operations and overall business performance?
Yes. So if we look at kind of where the huge impacts have been, just from an ability to get financial reporting from a 30-day close to less than 10-day close, that was huge. Being able to do an audit without having months and months of having to go through paperwork. Everything's digital, so you've got everything you need. And then as we look at kind of our business, we're on the manufacturing side, so you've got not just the financial reporting you have, but you have to look at kind of what the whole ecosystem is, right? So if you're dealing with trading partners and you have EDI, how do you integrate EDI properly? If you have inventory, how are you able to track historical inventory the right way? How do you want to look at your customers, and how do you want to segment your margins? And we couldn't do that historically in our old system, but we were able to do it really easily, and with new audits help. Okay, well, we want to have different segments because we track the customers, not just at the customer that we sell to, but who the end user is. And that allows us to say, okay, well, we're selling to XYZ Grocery, and they're what they value. Or on the flip side, kind of being in our industry, there's a lot of things like deduction management, and how do you track your freight providers? We couldn't do that in a legacy system without using Excel. So you had all these Excel sheets, and you're just tracking. Where now it's just in a system. We push a button, we get a report out. Okay, who's been a good trading partner, and who do we have to talk to about our relationships? So that's what NetSuite's kind of allowed us to do from a digital transformation. And then at the same time, it's like, okay, every time we grow X what, do I need to hire someone, or can I leverage the technology skills, the technology within the system to then, hey, I have that ability to like move quicker without having to hire another body.
You definitely hit all the critical marks on financial transformation in NetSuite for most organizations. But I wanted to kind of flip it on its head a little bit and ask if you could, after going through an ERP implementation with NetSuite, and I think everybody, all CFOs, everybody in finance knows it's definitely an organ transplant, as we like to say, for most organizations. But what were some of the major hurdles that you encountered in your ERP rollout? And how did you address those to ensure seamless integration across finance, the business operations, and keep the lights on, if you will?
Yeah. I think the data piece is kind of the one that surprised me the most. Didn't realize how dirty the data was that we
Mm.
were getting out of the old system and the level of cleaning we need to do to get it into NetSuite. Like that's
Mhm.
it's like garbage in, garbage out, right? So we had to we had to really clean the data first before we got it to NetSuite, and that I mean it took resources, but by doing that right, all the data that come, all the reporting, all the financial analysis coming out of NetSuite now is really in a good place because of that. The other piece is a level of, the user interface of NetSuite is really great. It's like easy and intuitive, and you want to get the users that are across the organization excited about using the system because it's a change to their day-to-day business processes. So it's how do you like I think my key learning was I should have involved the staff users outside of the accounting side earlier on to get them more excited about what they were going to be able to do. Because once they found the power of NetSuite, it's simple like issuing a purchase order, how easy it was to do that. They were really excited, but beforehand they were like, "Why are you changing my job?" So
Yeah,
a lot of that transformation piece is kind of what we learned.
no, absolutely.
Yeah. Change is hard for people, and when you can influence them along the way and make it a growth kind of
Yeah.
skill for them, it kind of
The
is a
the
positive
the
thing.
other, yeah, and I would say the other thing that's unique, going from an on-prem to cloud-based as the IT transformation as well. You can't forget about that. So, for example, like it's really easy to log into NetSuite. It's not so easy when you're having on-prem. You have to go through multiple places to get into it. So it's just like training the team. Hey, like this is going to a how our cost savings are by going this way, but also kind of what we need to do to make sure that we maintain that same level of security that we had from an on-prem side. So you've got these other transformations that you have to think about that are part of the whole solution.
Do we have
And I
any-
know we want to get into the M&A activity you guys have been doing over the last couple of, really like the last 2 years since we've known you guys in Miami Beach, just from a broad swath of what you expect, what you see when you're
Yeah.
utilizing NetSuite as your core system. But Gina, anything you want to ask specifically there?
Just in with your background with M&A and restructuring, how have your digital tools like NetSuite ERP contributed to identifying maybe and capturing these growth opportunities that you talked about maybe?
Yeah. So one of our most recent transactions, they were on a legacy 2019 version of Sage. Um,
Mhm.
and we wanted to get them integrated as quick as possible because running two systems is very, for reporting is a
Yeah.
pain. So we're able to integrate them in 90 days into NetSuite, or really, really 30 days, but like 90 days to be perfect. Um, and what that allowed us to is like, A, you don't need all this extra staff, number one. B, just the consolidated quick reporting, your close time goes down. You can see the numbers of the other, of the acquired company very easily and quickly, and allows you to have kind of the intercompany transactions, everything needed on a straightforward, easy, quick basis is kind of what. So like you see a lot of companies that we talk to, they're on old legacy systems. They don't have the data right, so you spend a significant amount of time really cleansing their data up front, like we did at Miami Beef at first. And
Mm.
once you get into that, because you've gone through in the M&A process of QV and all the transaction diligence, so you have an idea of, you obviously know their numbers, but you now are kind of operating them, which is a whole different feel for it. So you've got to kind of basically have a playbook to how do you transform their chart of accounts, um,
Mhm.
all their customer data, get their vendor data, and get that into a system quickly. And what NetSuite has allowed us to do is, because it's so easy to basically take this data, convert it into what's needed for NetSuite, and put into the system, we can get companies acquired and operated on the platform.
Mm.
We operate them actually immediately. Like we connect payroll, we do everything right away. and then it takes like 90 days to get it kind of to a perfect standpoint where you're not operating out of both systems. But yeah, it's so the M&A piece is like you know exactly what you're looking for up front to be able to get it after you kind of once you acquire the company.
And I know ERP is only a small sliver of the consideration on the M&A side, but any critical things that maybe stand out, when you're looking at that Sage opportunity or other opportunities in the past where the system is an AS400, there's no way we're going to get the data out. Let's not even go down this path.
Yeah, the key pieces can, if because we're in the manufacturing realm and we've got unique requirements, can their existing like NetSuite? What's amazing about it is it can like take in anything, right? And you can integrate it with an API, so or SFTP as need be. So like if they're on a system that is so specific to them and they've got so many unique requirements, and this hasn't happened to us yet, but we've looked at companies like this where it's like, hey, we are never going to try to manufacture with them out of NetSuite. They're just going to have to manufacture the way they are. We can integrate them pretty straightforward because we can at least push out through their backend some sort of CSV file and get that into NetSuite. So ideally, we're in a place where we can just do a plug and play. But if we're not, you can always look at them and say, how else can we integrate them pretty quickly? Because the goal is always to like centralize the accounting and financial operations. So you're like speaking with one voice. You're able to report under one entity, and NetSuite allows us to do that. It's just being able to look under the hood and say, okay, all these systems, legacy or not, they all operate kind of the same way, where they've got something under the hood of where you can download data. It's just finding the right team like Nuage that can help us kind of cleanse that data and get it into NetSuite.
And lastly, I wanted to ask, how do you see digital transformation reshaping in the future? Are you starting to see maybe just the tighter elements on AP automation, tighter elements on specific areas of specific to financials, or any other areas in the ERP realm that you're just very excited about that you think will happen near term?
Yeah, there's some pretty interesting stuff. Like AP automation seems to be at the mature point now. Like there's a dozen or so companies doing AP automation.
Yeah.
Where it's more interesting is, and what AP automation has done is you don't need 5 people doing AP. You only need one person doing AP. That they're doing really the exception reporting.
Mhm.
Where it's interesting, it's like on AR. Right now, you can go in and you can have your AR portals with your customers actually have bots going in and pulling the data of their payment remittances, and that means that you don't need to have 3 or 4 people doing AR. You just need one person. So that piece, EDI, which is an old technology, right? But the data coming back in, that also allows you to automate some things. And then other financial reporting like inventory, just pushing out. And then the analysis piece. We haven't really looked into FP&A and we're going to automate yet, but I imagine there's a million companies doing it and there's something there. What's nice is with bring it back to NetSuite is if NetSuite doesn't do it right or doesn't do it per se, there's a million companies that do it that have some sort of integration in NetSuite. One of the reasons why we selected NetSuite over other systems was there's so many thousands of companies on NetSuite, which means that there's a large ecosystem of people that want to support it, as well as which allowed us to say, okay, well, if we need to do something specific that NetSuite doesn't do, there's somebody else that will do it that will connect it to the system.
Right.
So yeah.
That's a good point.
Oh, that's excellent.
And lastly, we always like to get your take on AI, and as we were just at a conference last week, and the notion of industrial AI is kind of at the forefront of a lot of people's minds. Anything specific that you see, whether it be agent to agent or more contextual type dashboards in the near term that you're really kind of hoping for with the NetSuite rollout over the next couple of releases?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be in a perfect world, I'd love to see in the plant and in our offices a dashboard that has, all of our KPIs so that everyone in the company can just see, hey, here where you are on your target for the day, for the week, so that everyone kind of sees the big picture of what they're looking to accomplish. I think that's coming. I'm sure if it's not available now, it'll be available in 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty excited about those capabilities. Yeah, is the reporting not just at the the top level, but across the organization. So that if you're working on a production line, you're like, hey, I'm supposed to produce this many pounds per hour. Where am I at? Well, you can see it on the board. You know where you're at, and you know what you're trying to accomplish for the day.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, they're getting there slowly but surely with some of the towers. But yeah, Daniel, I want to really just thank you for joining us today, giving us some insight into your implementation, your understanding of NetSuite, and where the organization at Miami Beef is going. Super exciting. And to our audience, remember, Nuage specializes in guiding businesses through the transformation, optimization of NetSuite, so you don't have to do it alone. But Daniel, we want to give you the last word. Anything you want to add? Anything you're looking at, excited for, or any plugs you'd like to add before we wrap things up today?
No, I appreciate you guys covered a lot, and I really appreciate our partnership with Nuage, and I look forward to the future. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Daniel.
We appreciate
Our
you.
audience, thank you for joining in. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.